From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
My dad owns Davis Excavating. They do dirt work, site prep, septic systems, underground utilities, drainage, and land clearing. Before anything gets built, my dad and his crew get the ground ready. They work really hard and do the job right. So if you're ready to build, my dad's ready to dig. Call my dad at Davis Excavating.
All right, well, happy Friday to you. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger, starting off with your Krueger's Quickcast. It's Friday, folks, Friday, June 12th. We start off with that skeeter meter. If you're going to be out and about, maybe going for a hike, just note that on a scale of 0 to 5, that it is on a 2. So there are still some skeeters out there, just not as bad as we've been in the past. There you can see some advice coming in from the Shasta Mosquito and Vector Control. Covers on boats, cars, and RVs, those can hold water, which is breeding grounds for mosquitoes, right? Tree holes, low areas, rain gutters, yard drains, French drains, street gutters, and potholes. Call the number on your screen if you're concerned about some standing water in your area and what they might have as far as advice is concerned for you. All right, let's get you out the door this morning. Mainly clear. There may be some patchy fog for some of you along the coast. But otherwise, we're going to be looking at plenty of sunshine. It's going to be another warm, hot day, depending on how you look at it. Big void of clouds over the eastern Pacific. That's the high pressure. That's the high pressure that's building, and it's getting even stronger. So warmer than it was even yesterday. Temperatures generally between 100 and 105 in the valley for today. 80s, 90s. Approaching that 100-degree mark in parts of Trinity County and some of those inland areas. Some of you may touch the triple digits today. Otherwise, for the coast, upper 60s, even some low 70s. Now, for tonight, it's going to cool off for some of you in the mountains. Pretty pleasant, actually. 40s in places like Alturas at about 42, as well as Tennant. Out towards Mount Shasta City, though, a bit warmer at 51. Mid-50s, give or take, for Trinity County, and mid-50s for the coast, but still quite mild. Temperatures may struggle to even drop below 70 for tonight and into tomorrow morning for the valley. Speaking of the valley, there's your 7-day forecast. It's over 100 degrees, most likely at least through the middle of next week before we start to see some relief near the end of next week. And that's the overall trend for everyone else. We see the peak of this warming trend sometime around Monday, still fairly warm through the middle of next week. But yes, we start to see those temperatures begin to drop. And quite a drop, actually, by the end of next week. Take a quick look at your fire weather risk. It's not as concerning as it has been. The red flag warning has been allowed to expire, but we can't let our guards down, even when there aren't any red flag warnings or fire weather watches. Why? Well, the winds are still a little breezy coming out of the north. And especially in the morning hours, we expect some of those on the west side of the valley, some gusty winds. But otherwise, through the afternoon, the winds shouldn't be a big concern going through the weekend. And I think that's going to be the case here even going into early next week. But still, 10 to even upwards of 15 mile per hour gusts. But see, we look at heat as well and humidity. The numbers on your screen are the humidity levels. Look at today. Even though there's no red flag warning, it's still very dry. Winds, again, not as strong as they have been. That's good, but it's still going to be hot. So it's going to be hot and dry, which means we'll still have that elevated fire weather risk today, tomorrow, Sunday. You can see still those single digits with those humidity levels, and that'll be the case even going into Monday. This is that time of the year where it's going to be pretty much standard, right? So our headlines, triple digits have arrived for the valley. The first time this year was yesterday, and we've got more triple digits in the days to come through the weekend into next week. Heat advisor's been issued through Saturday. That, quite honestly, may be extended. Weaker winds, but still breezy at times, especially in those morning hours. But there is relief from the heat by late next week. Let's get into all of that in our deeper dive forecast here for your Friday, June 12th. So the satellite is showing, you'll notice this big void of clouds right here. Look at the clouds. See how they're all kind of moving up and over the ridge of high pressure. The center of the ridge, this is the key to everything. The center of the ridge is right about here. It's going to be building and expanding to the north and east, but the center of the ridge is not going to move directly on top of us. That's key to just how hot it will get, because the hottest temperatures are going to be at the center of that dome of high pressure. And I do expect that sometime around Sunday, Monday is when this ridge will peak. But then we've got cooler air right here. You see how it's riding over the ridge? So instead of this nice little prominent ridge, we're flattening things out, and it's actually splitting in two. We've got this heat moving back over here, and then more heat over the desert southwest and into south central United States. And for us, we've got some more mild air moving in as that colder air rides to our north. So that's the relief that we do have in sight, but that's not until the end of next week, folks. We've got to get through today, this weekend, and even into the middle of next week. Now, there's a heat advisory issued by the National Weather Service through Saturday with those highs between 102 and 107 degrees. This is for the valley and, of course, many of the surrounding foothills as well. Keep in mind, it will still be rather warm, borderline hot, depending on how you look at it, for many of the higher elevations as well. So if you're going to be hanging out by a creek or a stream or a river, just note that the waters are still very cold, hyperthermic. You just need to be careful on that. But you can see that little peak here as we go into Monday, and the temperatures start to tick back down, and there's that relief. I know, 90 degrees, that's still warm, but at least it's not going to be 105, 107, right? So we are seeing that relief in sight closer to normal for this time of the year by the end of next week and into that next weekend. You're going to be hearing about the heat risk scale. Okay, and this is something that has been developed by the National Weather Service. It takes several factors into account when it comes to the heat risk, time of the year when we normally see these warmer temperatures. So usually early in the season when we have these big heat waves, there tends to be that heat risk. So you've got 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the 4 categories. We are going to be within that moderate to major category. So what does that mean? Well, essentially, the moderate category is the level of heat that affects most individuals. Not everybody, right? But most individuals sensitive to heat. And this is especially for those without effective cooling. You know, a lot of times people, they kind of roll their eyes at these heat advisories and the heat risk, all of that. But that's because they've got proper hydration. They've got plenty of sources for cold water. They've got a house that has a very good air conditioner. But there are a lot of people out there who don't have that access to a good, proper air conditioning and proper ways to hydrate as well. So those are the people most at risk when it comes to these heat waves that come through, especially when we get into the moderate and even more so into the major category, because the major category affects anyone who does not have effective cooling or proper ways to hydrate. So again, these are all things you need to take into account when you see these risks and advisories. So as you can see in the valley, we're getting all within that moderate, right, to major category for Saturday. We're looking at the weekend now. Let's take you into Sunday. A little bit of relief, especially down to the south, but still hot nonetheless. And I do expect it to be even hotter as that ridge of high pressure builds even stronger by Monday. You can see most, if not all of the valley within that major risk, right? And even a few areas where we're getting within that extreme category as well. So just kind of take that into account as we go through the weekend and next week. So where are we doing when it comes, or how are we doing that is when it comes to water? Well, we look at the last year. Last 12 months, the valley's still over 100% of where we typically are for this time of the year. But what you'll notice is a lot of the surrounding mountains and even the coast hasn't fared so well over the last 12 months, especially out towards Crescent City. Now you can see how that kind of comes into alignment when we take a look at the drought monitor. This is where we've seen the least amount of rainfall as well off to the east. Where we're seeing more rainfall and have seen more rainfall, we're more within that just very lowest category of the drought monitor. But bottom line, since I believe it was April, we've been in some form of drought over Northern California. And here over the last several weeks, we've started to get more within that moderate drought for areas that have seen the least amount of rainfall. Lake levels are still very healthy. If you've been spending any time on them, you'll know, and you can see that. Now, you can see the percentages at the bottom is the percentage that the lake is at this point. But historically speaking, where we should be and typically are, you'll see we are over 100%. So that is a good sign. The problem is we haven't had much of a snowpack, so when we start seeing less and less rainfall, we tend to see the lakes continue to fill up a little bit with some of that snowpack. We're not really seeing that because most of the snowpack is pretty much gone at this point. So we may eventually, in the weeks and months to come, see these historical averages maybe even drop below 100%. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it, but overall things are looking pretty good when it comes to those lakes. Now the wave heights are still fairly high for today. I mentioned there may be that small correct advisory. It's been reissued for today, but the good news is it looks like by Saturday those wave heights should start to drop, so I don't anticipate there to be as much of an issue there. North winds 20 to 25 knots, waves from the northwest at 6 feet at about 9 seconds. And the small craft advisory. Your neighborhood forecast sponsored by Dignity Health and Grange Co-op. Now, I've got you right around the upper 90s. I'd say we're going to be upper 90s, maybe around 100 degrees in some spots here for today. And that's the case through the weekend. There's that little peak come Monday, Tuesday, and then temperatures should start to drop after that, especially by around Thursday of next week. Now, the coast, yeah, nice place to kind of cool off there, right? I mean, we're close to 70 as we go into today and tomorrow, but generally mid to upper 60s here through Tuesday. And also, those temperatures starting to drop for Wednesday, Thursday of next week. Now, again, the inland area, some of you may touch 100 degrees today, but for the most part, mid to upper 90s, 84 degrees out towards Smith River, 74 in Oric and McKinleyville, about 71. For Siskiyou County, I've got you in the upper 80s to low 90s, a little bit cooler for some of those higher elevations like Tennant at about 83. McLeod, though, about 90. Look for a high of about 88 for Mount Shasta City, and one of the warmer spots will be Happy Camp at about 95. And what you'll notice, the 7-day forecast for the mountains, yeah, it's that peak around Monday, Tuesday, and then temperatures dropping as we get towards the end of next week. Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast, 80s and 90s there, 95 degrees out in Paradise, 89 for Westwood, and 92 degrees in Shingletown. And for the Valley, yeah, another day of 100 degrees or higher. I've got you at 103 in Chico, 101 for Durham, 102 for Corning, and Elk Creek about 101. Here's your 7-day forecast for Chico. We'll keep it 100 degrees or higher through Tuesday, if not maybe even into Wednesday, and then you'll notice that drop in those temperatures by Thursday. We take you up to the north, about 105 degrees for Redding, 103 in Red Bluff. You think Redding saw about a high of 101, 102 yesterday. So again, just a little bit warmer than it was yesterday. So again, that ridge is building, so temperatures will start to slowly increase. 103 out towards Bella Vista, 99 in Whiskeytown and Lakehead, about 97 degrees. There's your 7-day forecast for Redding. We're going to keep it 100 degrees or higher through Wednesday, back down to the upper 90s by Thursday, possibly low 90s by next Friday. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon for the latest check of your weather. Have a great morning.